Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Matt Chat. Today I am joined by my good friend Jason Keck, who brought us the new Olympic bronze medalist, former college All-American Thomas Gilman, freshly shaved off the plane. Thomas, good morning. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Great, really great, and really appreciative that you're coming on so quickly after the flight and everything else. And Jason, thanks to you for setting this up. I know you and Thomas have been friends for a long time. And when we talked about interviewing him, you had some great questions. And so I thought we would do this together. Uh, first of all, we're made possible by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and sponsored by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. Thomas, we just have a bunch of questions. So I just kind of want to talk about it and kind of get out of the way, because I watched one of the interviews you did from Tokyo and kind of want to just expand on some of those things. So
Yeah.
I'll go first, and then Jason, you can jump in. The foot injury was something, Kale and the crew are good at keeping things really on the low, like when Suriano that one year supposedly was working out and all those kind of things. What exactly was the treatment? Because when you were describing it, it was hard to tell how much of it you were talking about opening pathways, how much of it was physical, and how much of it was just the physical was helping you mentally. And you mentioned you were dealing with stress in other parts of your body from years and years. And that to me was fascinating. And I kind of wanted to get into that some more.
Yeah. So it's kind of a little bit of a story, but it kind of started, I banged up my foot and we thought maybe it was turf toe initially, but got back from the trials and my foot was really bothering me. So we went and got it x-rayed and the whole 9 yards. And the doc was essentially like, luckily we have a really good doctor here in State College. And he's like, well, this is a very significant injury. It's a Lis Franck tear. And my first instinct is to tell you to have surgery, but obviously that's not an option because you're going to the Olympic Games. So, we just kind of came up with a game plan, with him. And then I was at training camp soon after and thought it'd be a good idea to get a second opinion. It's always good to get a couple opinions. And so I got actually 2 more opinions when I was out in Colorado Springs area. And those doctors were like, no, like surgery right now, like there's not another option. And I'm like, well, it's not an option. I'm going to the Olympic Games. I spent 20 years working towards this goal. I'll cut it off if I have to. I'm going. And they tried to talk me into it, saying, oh, you're going to have scar tissue and arthritis, and you're not going to be able to use it. You're not going to be able to walk or run. I'm like, well, I'm going to have arthritis in every other joint in my body anyways. It's part of the sport and part of the job. So they weren't convincing me that way. So there's a guy that Coach Kale knows, he's out of California, and he come to work on us a few times here in State College. And Coach Kale was like, are you interested in going to see this guy? And I'm like, yeah, anything that we can do to maybe help,
anything, yeah,
we'll do it. So the Knee Line Wrestling Club flew me out there and worked with this guy. And it was a kind of a life-changing experience, really, because I think he touched my foot maybe one time, at the very end of treatment. But he has this philosophy. So if you're going to heal properly, you have to heal on multiple different planes. And one of them is obviously the physical. There's the mental plane that you got to heal on, and then the emotional, and then the spiritual. So there's 4 planes that you heal on, and you have to have all those planes intersect. And so we spent a lot of time, working on my emotions, which is kind of a tough thing for guys like us. We're wrestlers, we're tough guys. We don't show emotion, especially me. Like, I don't know, I always hide things and keep things bundled up. But he really worked on me, like bringing some things out emotionally, and kind of, it was more of like a therapy session there in the beginning. He's like, you got these issues going on. I can tell just the way you're holding stress in different areas of your body. And I was kind of like, hey, I'm not here to talk about my emotions. I'm here for you to fix my foot. And he's like, well, you're here, like the foot got you here. And the foot wasn't necessarily the issue. The issue was some of the stress and tension that I was holding in my body for 27 years. And we needed to address those issues first, and then we could start working on the foot. And so his philosophy is kind of based on Eastern medicine, Chinese medicine, and meridians and stuff. So we kind of, like I said in the interview, opened up some energy pathways and stuff. And some people say it's witch doctorish and whatever, and that's kind of how I thought about it, but it worked. So just one thing that really struck me was, he's like, you can go get surgery and you can go, do whatever you need to do, but you're not, the energy is not going to your foot, it's stuck in your hips and in your upper neck area, so there's no energy going to your foot anyway. So even if you get surgery, it's not going to help you because there's no energy going to that injury. You're bundled up, with all these emotions and stress and tension. So we kind of worked on, getting those planes to intersect. And once they intersected, we just hit the ground running. I got back to training, about 3 weeks after that. And it was kind of a process. He gave me some exercises and stuff to do, not only physical exercises, but emotional exercises, kind of self-talk kind of things. And along with that, a lot of his stuff is based in Christian principles and prayer, so between doing my physical exercises and just being in tune with my emotions and my breathing, and then, my spiritual life, praying to God, just asking him to heal me, when those things intersected, I was healed. And then that you take it one step farther, I was working with Coach Cal in training lab in California, and he got me on a nutrition plan to kind of essentially calcify that area, so I mean, I'll have to get it re-looked at, but I mean, it feels pretty good. At this point, I don't know if surgery is even an option because it's so calcified and scar tissued over, but I mean, it feels as good as it's going to get, so
Yeah.
it was a journey.
It looked good when you were sprinting out to the mat. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Everybody that I talked to loved that. They were like, man, look at Thomas. He's ready to go. You were like, when you were coming out of the tunnel and your first repechage match, that you were out quick on the mat and the other guy took his time and then like sat down and tied his shoes. It was like playing the game the other way of like making you wait out there and stuff. So
especially those Soviet ex-Soviet nation blocks, they try to play that game, they're going to make you wait out there and it's on their terms and their time. But, something I always think about is I'm going to bring all my energy to the mat. I'm going to sprint out there, sprint up on the podium and just bring all my energy, all my intensity. And that really weighs on a guy psychologically too, when he sees you're just fired up and you're out there and you have a lot of energy. So he can make me wait out there all I want. I have so much energy that I'm almost taking it away from him. So I didn't mind waiting out there. I knew I had him beat before we even stepped on the mat, just the way my energy was in the back room before we went out. I could just see, he was a good wrestler, but he knew that he was gonna have to go through hell to pull that one out. And I just don't know if he had the energy to do it. And I just kind of took it to him after that.
I don't want to turn into Dr. Phil on you, and I don't want to ask you anything you don't want to talk about. But before we move on, because the foot explanation is fascinating to me. When you said you had to deal with some things emotionally, and again, whatever that is, and that's between you and God and whoever else you choose to talk to about it. But is it fair to say you kind of had to go back in time and like some things that had bothered you over the years and confront them and come up with some sort of resolution that allowed you to just release that bad energy? Is that kind of what you did?
Yeah, you're hitting it on the spot right there. We all have our own, everyone has trauma, right? Childhood trauma, midlife trauma, whatever it is, midlife crisis. And we kind of get stuck in those things and it's kind of sucking our energy. So I had to go back and kind of figure out and really be honest with myself and say, hey, what kind of negative energy am I holding on to? Whether it was, childhood trauma or, I had that injury. I tore my hamstring back in 2018, all these different things that I had to really concentrate on and be honest with myself. Like, hey, this is sucking energy from me and just address those issues and kind of leave them in the past and say, hey, I learned a lot from these issues, but it's kind of an ego thing too. Like we think that all these hard things that we're going through, when we just hold on to it emotionally, it's going to drive us, that's kind of like a very manly thing, oh, I went through these hard times, I'm going to remember that to push me. But actually it's hindering us, we let go of the past, it's just baggage. The good analogy is, a car, you have a huge windshield and a little tiny rear view mirror. It's tiny for a reason. You don't need to be looking in the rear view mirror.
I love that. That's cool.
Life really, it's just there to learn and to keep you honest. But we need to just have our focus on the windshield and moving forward. So once I kind of let go of some of that garbage and baggage, I just kind of was able to to move forward and just be more free, free emotionally.
Yeah, again, that's an awesome explanation because it's what it sounded like you were alluding to. And we have a lot of coaches, high school coaches, especially, and a lot of athletes that watch this podcast. And I don't, they're clearly not watching to listen to me, but they're listening to learn. And we've been able to have some amazing guests on. And I think just whatever we talk about for the next 40 minutes, that alone is amazing because just letting that stuff go is important. So I'm a huge like bracket dork guy, like, look at all the rounds ahead of time. And one of the things I think wrestling could do better would be to draw the brackets earlier because you could promote the matchups sooner, but they only do it the day before. So when you saw the bracket, you knew you had a guy up right away. I talked to Jason. I'm like, it's a good draw in the sense that that's probably the best guy in the bracket on paper. So Thomas is either going to win and be in a great spot or has a good chance of being pulled through. But I'm not wrestling. I'm not cutting down to 57 kilos. I don't have that same mentality of a winner that you do. How much do you think about that? How much goes into game planning? Like, here's what we need to do to beat him. How much is just, we're getting you ready? And I know there's like 2 or 3 questions in there, but I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah. So, I mean, this whole training camp, leading up to the Olympic Games, right when I made the team, I was hurt, so I couldn't really train or anything. And I remember I was at training camp and I was in a boot and I couldn't really do anything. And I was just wanted to be productive, so I kind of made a little, just a Word document. I kind of wrote down all 16 guys in my weight. I wrestled about half of them, maybe over half of them. And the other half I've either been in brackets with or, they've been on the circuit for a while. So I was very familiar. So I just kind of wrote down, my experiences when I wrestled them, how maybe they've beat me in the past or where they've taken me down or where they kind of exposed some flaws in me. And then the guys that I never wrestled, I kind of went and watched through a good amount of film just because if you haven't wrestled them, you haven't felt them, then it's a good way to be able to feel a guy, through watching film, which, is amazing with the technology we have. You just type it in YouTube or the UWW website and you can find just about anything. And then, so I kind of a basic idea of what everyone did. And I kind of sent that to Coach Cody and said, hey, this is what I got. And he kind of took that and he kind of incorporated some of those things into our training throughout the cycle, leading up to games. But one thing I really do appreciate about Coach Cody and the staff here at Penn State is that they don't spend a whole lot of time about worrying about what the other guy's going to do. Like they'll scout them and they'll have you prepared for certain tricks they got or whatever. But really the bulk of my time leading up to games was just focusing on my stuff. And there's some areas I need to work on, finishing single leg below the knee, finishing head on the outside shots, short time goes, which it came back to bite me there with a Ugoyev match. So there's certain things that I need to work on. That's what we focus on the most. It's like, just go out there and do what you do best and everything else is going to fall into place. And then the brackets came out and I saw Ugoyev first round and, I just kind of went back and watched.
What did you think when you saw it? I'm sorry to interrupt. What did you think? Were you excited? You're like, dang it. Or do you just, your mentality is whatever, I got to beat 4 guys to win it anyway.
Yeah, it didn't matter. It was, you got to beat the best guy to win anyways. And with the Americans and the way we have good discipline and we do our weight cut well and just our mentality, having a guy like that right off the scale 2 hours later, I think it was to my advantage. So that's kind of what my thought was, if I'm going to wrestle this guy, let's have him off the scale. Why not? Because I did my weight cut perfect. It couldn't have gone any better. I felt the best I have in my entire life. So I was ready for him right off the scale. And, I just kind of watched a few matches and because he's really good at the whistle starts and he's sneaky. He's just a winner. I wasn't super impressed with him technically. He's a 2-time world champion. He's got a lot of good technical skills, but as far as that, I wasn't super impressed. I just knew that I had to be moving my feet off the whistles and just stay disciplined, out in the open and just kind of take it to him. But as far as talk about the rest of the bracket, moving forward, I didn't look at the rest of the bracket, yeah, obviously you're aware because you see the bracket, you see where you're at and you glance at, kind of where other people are. But I knew that, you just take care of what's in front of you. So I was like, all right, we'll take care of Ugoyev. And then when we come off the mat, Coach Cody will, have something for me for the Uzbek. I already knew what he does. He's wrist ties single to my back leg is his main thing. He can hit a high crouch the other way, but that's not going to really work on me because I circle the other way. So yeah, just worrying one match at a time. And then, I lost. So then I was like, all right, now it's a very humbling experience. You got to cheer for the guy that just beats you. It's very unique.
Let's explain that to the people that don't follow freestyle or Greco full time, because we have a lot of folk style people that are just double elimination bracket. So
yeah.
You get pulled through, he's got to make the finals, and you wrestled him in the round of 16. So now he's got to win the quarters and the semis.
Yeah.
And you said he's a winner, and he is a winner. Like, he found a way to win against you. He found a way to win in that. We're all rooting for him from home in that quarterfinal match. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to lose and Thomas is going to be out. And he finds a way to pull the rabbit out of the hat again. I mean, how emotional were you in that match, that quarterfinal match that he's wrestling? Like, are you going crazy, or do you somehow, because of all this other stuff, have this calm and like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen?
I think I was pretty calm. I was pretty confident that he's going to pull through. I mean, the only thought I had in the back of my head was, hopefully we don't have a Metcalf effect, because, it's happened to Metcalf year after year at the World Championships. He wrestles a guy first round or second round, the guy's completely exhausted. And those guys, it goes fast after that first round. You have your first round match, and then essentially you're in the hole right away. And so I was just hoping that, he was able to recover, and he was not recovered, but he found a way to win. I took it out of him, but he found a way to win. He's just technically a little bit better and more savvy than that Uzbek. And I remember there was like 16 seconds left and he got taken down. He's losing 6-6 or 6-4, whatever it was. And I kind of stood up and turned around. I was like, oh, that's it. We came here for one match and now I'm done. But then something clicked in my head and I turned around. I was like, I gotta suck it up. I gotta watch this guy lose it. If he's going to lose, I got to watch it, just to seal my destiny. And then I think that,
take your medicine.
Yeah. And then, so I think I just gave him maybe enough energy. I put enough energy into the world where I was like, focused, and not that I did anything for him, but he got the takedown. I was like, all right, I looked at Coach Cody. He's like, let's go work on this weight, because now he's got, 6 hours or whatever it was to get ready for the Iranian in the semis. And he's way better than that Iranian, just technically. So I knew that once he got through that round, it was time to work on my weight and get one workout in. So I'm within striking distance for tomorrow, and then kind of come back and watch that Iranian match in the semis. So it was kind of looking back, it was an emotional roller coaster, especially those last 16 seconds. You don't want to go to Tokyo halfway around the world and go one and done. And it wasn't about, coming back to get bronze or anything. At that moment, I was just thankful, and just had a lot of gratitude. Like, oh, I'm able to compete again, because I went out there and I felt really good. I was just super present and just doing things were clicking, I just wanted another opportunity to compete and just show the world that, I am the best guy. I just didn't wrestle the best with the last 46 seconds, so you don't always get a second chance, and I didn't get a second chance at gold, obviously, but you kind of get a second chance to come back and show what you're really made of. And I think that's really something to be proud of for me, is like, just it was ripped away from me, and it wasn't ripped away. I let it slip away. I put it on me, that's my fault. And then to be able to come back and show my character, and yeah, that just was what meant a lot to me, to be able to come back and really just blow those other guys, just their doors off, just show the world that, I got silver in 2017, and then I got hurt in 2018. I ended up making the team in 2018. I was in the bronze medal match, but I couldn't pull it through. And then 19, obviously I didn't make the team. So I kind of had these ups and downs in my career this cycle, but just showing the world that this is me, this is the Thomas Gilman that is here to stay. There's no more inconsistencies. I'm dealing with issues now and taking care of my body. So I felt good just kind of just put an exclamation mark next to my name and 57 kilos for the next couple of years.
You definitely did. I see Keck over there taking notes, and I wanted him to jump in. Jason, go ahead.
No, Thomas, I was there, and 2018 watching you, and one of the thoughts I had was, you had a bronze medal match there. You had a bronze medal match at the Olympics. Like, what was the shift in mindset or the maturity of you as an athlete and a person between 2018 and 2021, as far as like preparing for that match, walking out for that match? Any similarities or differences?
I think the biggest difference was, I remember in 2018, I was just too hard on myself, really. I went out and I got tech fouled by the Kazakh in the semifinals match, and it was just a really bad match. I didn't manage the match very well, and I let the guy kind of get to me a little bit. He's freaking tugging on my singlet. He's notorious for that, and certain things that were out of my control that I was worrying about. And then I just felt sorry for myself. I was, oh, I'm right there, and I should have beat him, but I ended up getting blown out of the water. And then I was feeling sorry for myself. And then going that bronze medal match, I was wrestling with maybe anger instead of passion. I wasn't present. I just wanted to kind of beat this guy up, and that's not how you go about wrestling the best guys in the world. You got to go out there and use your techniques and get to his legs and take these guys down. And I think in the bronze medal match in the Olympics, I was excited. It's like I have an opportunity to be really close to my dream. My dream's always been to be an Olympic gold medalist, and why not come back and get the second best? So I was just super excited and had a lot of passion just going out there on the mat. And it was just completely different. Like my mindset, I wasn't feeling sorry for myself. I'm like, I'm here, let's just have a good time and just showcase my skills a little bit and get to this guy's legs and really just light them up. But I think I'm in a really good position right now as far as my health, because in 2018, I tore my hamstring in January of 2018. And then, so I never really recovered. I couldn't shoot. I couldn't do anything. That's when I kind of developed my underhook to be able to push guys out. And I got a lot of slack for that, for a couple of years. And like, well, he doesn't shoot. It's like, well, I couldn't shoot. I physically could not shoot, and then after that, I mentally couldn't shoot because I was so hung up on my injury. But now, I'm so free mentally and physically, I just was just shooting and getting some scores. And that's when I'm best, is when I'm on the offense, getting the guy's legs, getting my hand blocked and coming up through them. But it's good to have that underhook. It's paid dividends for me, wearing on guys and getting my push outs. But I'm really my best when I'm letting go. It's kind of, it's kind of biblical too. It's faith based. You got to have that faith to let go and go to the leg. It's mental. So just where I was at in that bronze medal match, just mentally and spiritually and even physically too, it just completely different. It's two completely different people between 2018 and 2021 in that bronze medal match, even though it was the same situation a little bit. Just out there having fun. Coach Kale preaches it all the time here at Penn State. Just go out there and have fun. And if you're not having fun out there, then why do it? There's plenty of things that I could do that aren't as tough as making.
Aren't going to cause arthritis and everything else.
Going out there. So if I'm going to do it, I might as well have fun with it. And that's kind of what I took, in this past cycle leading up to this tournament, is just like, hey, you're out here, you're doing it, you might as well have fun with it. And the best way to have fun is go out there and just showcase your ability that God has given you, and just honoring him that way. So just different mindset, having fun, just respecting my opponent in a way where I'm not just going to go out there and beat him up, respect his skills, because everyone's tough. You're not going to go out there and just beat these guys down and break them like you maybe do in college wrestling. You got to go out there and use your skills, test your skills against the best guys in the world. And that's how you're going to beat them.
It's funny that, go ahead, Jason, go ahead.
No, when you say the have fun, like coming into Penn State in that environment, just from your, youth through high school to your time at the University of Iowa, like it reminds me of like when people tell somebody to relax, like relax, like, well, what does that mean? Like, how do I do that? Like when you went to Penn State and they're preaching this have fun, did you have like what does that mean? Like, how do I develop that for me? Or like,
oh yeah,
explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So it's kind of like an identity crisis, for sure. I was always super intense, growing up in kids wrestling and going to Scott Catholic with Coach Hildebrand, a lot of things were based on the Iowa style and Iowa, their program, so fun was winning, that's kind of like Coach Brand's always preached, like, oh, you want to have fun? Because we'd make fun of Penn State at the time, like, oh, fun, you want to have fun, go out there and win, go out there, beat the heck out of a guy. And that's fun, which it is. But I was kind of struggling with it for a little bit because I came here to change up the system and to get better at the art of wrestling. And I knew in order to do that, I need to be 100% bought into the program and what they're preaching. And you got to have your own identity and keep your own identity, but I need to be bought in if things were going to work. Right. So I was kind of going back and forth. I'm like, how do I make this work? Having fun. It's just not me. I just don't.
Not who I am.
But I had this conversation with this guy. His name's Brad Nagel. He's a former Navy SEAL, and I met him at the University of Iowa because he was getting his degree with his GI Bill, and he came into the wrestling room a lot to work out because it's tough for veterans, to go from being a Navy SEAL to transition back into normal society, and it kind of helped him, with the stuff he had going on to be in the wrestling room with a lot of intensity and the same kind of mentality that he had in the SEAL teams. And I would talk to him. We developed a relationship over the past, 7 years, and I kind of called him up one day or texted him one or the other. And I was like, hey, I'm having this issue, right? Like they're preaching, having fun and whatever. And I'm just like, I'm too intense for that. And he's like, well, he kind of, I'll paraphrase it, but this is essentially what he said. His job was to go out, and this is gonna be crude, but to kill people, to protect our nation. And in that sense, it's like, kill or be killed. And so it was the most intense job you could ever have, but he said, my job was to kill people and I enjoyed it every single day. I had fun doing it. I was okay. Well, if he can have fun in the most intense job in the world, then I can have fun doing my job because it's not quite as intense, so just finding that balance of having that intensity, but like enjoying the process and enjoying the grind of it. It gets kind of cheesy, but just finding the enjoyment of the sport again. I kind of joke around with people. I say, well, I'm in the renaissance of my wrestling career right now. And it kind of stemmed from just having fun, learning new techniques, learning how to cut weight in a more efficient and better way, doing a different kind of strength and conditioning program that is by all means hell, it's just enjoying every single part of it. And it kind of helped me just have perspective. And really, it's just Coach Varner said this to me before I even got to Penn State. We're on a trip to Russia, and I think he could pick up on my energy. I was a little, anxious or whatever. And we're sitting in the sauna. And he's like, hey, man, just kind of like you're saying, just relax. It's just a game. It's just a game. You just have to do it better than the guy across from you. And in all reality, we take ourselves a little bit too seriously as wrestlers because it is just a game, and people, outside of the sport of wrestling don't really care so much. So why should we care so much? Even though we have to, but it's a weird dichotomy there where it's like, don't take yourself too seriously, essentially. Just go out there and enjoy it because it's just a game and it's going to be over sooner than we'd like because your body can only do it for so long and your mind, your emotions can only do it for so long too. So we might as well enjoy it while we can. And it just helped me just find that love for the sport again.
Yeah, your point about how important it is in the big scope of things, and especially comparing it to the Navy SEAL or that person, what they have to do in life. It's like, obviously you guys, 9 medals at the Olympics. To us wrestling people, we love it. There's people that never knew your name that know your name now, but there's still 200 million people in the world that have no idea who you are.
Right.
So it's important to obviously keep that in perspective, like you're saying. One of the questions I had, which Jason kind of led into, was I said, I wrote this down. I go, your style seems very different from the end of your days at Iowa. And I wrote down, like, what were the differences between 2021 and 2018? Obviously the injury, which I knew you were injured, but that explanation kind of half answered the question. But you seem like you're pulling the trigger a lot more, like you're just attacking more. Obviously you said some of it had to do with your hamstring. I don't know if you're at 100%, but way closer to 100% than you were at the time. But how much of it is like just wrestling with a guy like an RBY all the time, that seems like that guy's just firing off attacks everywhere. And then, the guys that are sort of the core Penn State guys, like a David Taylor, always pulling on your head and always grabbing ankles. And, I don't mean to dumb down high level technique, but attacking, if either setting up and attacking, as opposed to just more of that pulling and grinding. How, if you watch your film from say 3-4 years ago to now, do you see differences, and how do you think those differences evolved?
Oh yeah. I mean, I watch some of my matches, I come across them once in a while from back in the day. I'm just like, it's almost cringy. It's like, oh man, like the technique is okay. It's like, and then just the match tactics and stuff. It was just brawling, there wasn't a lot of match management. It was just kind of going out there and slugging and see what happens. But I think it's a little bit of ego too, in a good way, because you get in this room and you got David Taylor, Bo Nickel, Zane Rutherford, Nick Lee, Roman Bravo Young, Kyle Snyder, and these guys are going out, and I'm competing with these guys, not only in the practice room, but, we have these Rock Fin events and the trials and stuff, and they're going out there and they're shooting off shots and they're hitting techniques and they're looking smooth and really showcasing their skills. And then I don't want to be the low guy on the totem pole. I want to go out there and show what I've been working on too, and, when we do matches in the room, it gets hot and competitive, as it should. And they're going out there just hitting shots. It's not about winning or losing. If you miss a shot, you reevaluate and you do better. And it's just kind of been like, being, in the practice room is where it kind of started, just kind of seeing those guys, the way they train and just putting it all out there every day, and not being afraid to make mistakes, because that's the only way to get better, especially wrestling, a guy like Nick Lee and Roman Bravo Young, they're super athletic and super strong and very good wrestlers. And you're not going to score every time you shoot. And you're not going to, like with Roman, you're not going to get to the leg every time you shoot. He's just fast. Sometimes I'll shoot a high crotch and he's already on the corner. He's not my leg. And sometimes he doesn't even get to my leg. He's behind me, but one thing I learned is like, the only way to get better there is keep going to his leg, keep going offense. And don't be afraid to mess up and make a mistake and try new things. And so it's kind of been, coming in as the new guy, I kind of felt like I needed to prove myself, like these guys are, I'm established too already, but
not in that room, not in that room.
Yeah. So you're the new guy. So you want to, show what you got and let these guys know that, hey, when we go to battle, like I'm going to put myself out there for you guys, and I'm not going to like let this program look bad because I'm this guy that just came in. I'm still doing the same old things and whatever. And they're out there kind of hitting their nice fancy moves. And yeah, it's just kind of been fun. Just like being around, like that's one thing, I mean, this started way back in maybe 2018. My wife and I had a conversation about just kind of having guys in the trenches with me. Cause at Iowa, I really didn't, and this isn't a knock on Iowa, right? It's just the truth. I was kind of doing it by myself. I had coaches and they helped me a lot and I appreciate that, but I didn't have anybody necessarily in the trenches doing the same things as me. They weren't going to these international tournaments. They weren't making teams. They weren't, on the same training cycle. So I needed I needed that camaraderie, and I really found that here in Penn State. We had 3 guys make the Olympic team and 5+ make the national team, and we're all training and we have the same goals and same mentality. And so I think that helped too, just having guys in the trenches with me and guys that I can have that camaraderie with and even just conversing with, like, hey, I'm having this issue here and I know you're pretty good in this position. How can I maybe clear this tie? Or I'm having trouble with this guy cutting the corner on me. I just can't do it. What do you do when this guy does this? And it's a two-way street, because I'm probably the best guy in the world finishing head on the inside single. And so, guys would ask me, how do you finish in this position? So just having that camaraderie really is kind of the difference and not wanting to let your comrades down too. You want to go out there and showcase my skills, the things we've been working on and not be the low guy in the totem pole.
About a year ago, I can't even remember who the podcast was with, but we kind of coined this phrase intellectual generosity, where you show me everything you know and I show you everything I know and we don't hold back. One of the things what you just said there was amazing, all of it. One of the things that struck me was my dad's been a coach for a long time and he would always tell guys very simply, don't keep score in practice. like just work on improving, like you said, the art of wrestling. He's a martial artist. He's 8th degree in a bunch of different martial arts, and he looks at wrestling like a martial art, like it's America's martial art. And what's fascinating to me is if you're wrestling with Roman Bravo Young, he's heavier than you, but on paper, you're our Olympian, whatever else, you're supposed to beat him. You're supposed to beat him, if you're just watching like every single time. Well, if you can hit one shot and you can beat him on this one specific holder technique, if you're keeping a score, you're never going to expand your repertoire. You're never going to try the things you're not as good at. And it feels like you've learned to let the scoring part go. And of like, hey, if I shoot this and he runs the corner, like you said, he's already behind me. Like you said, I have to keep doing that. And I think you're consciously not keeping a score. You're just working on improving. Is that a big focus in that Nittany Lion / Penn State wrestling room?
Yeah, I think for sure it is, right? It's not something that's necessarily preached out loud all the time, but it's definitely something that you just feel it in the energy. And just you're seeing guys like the most established guys, like let's say David Taylor, he's getting beat in some matches, by guys, and not necessarily getting beat, but getting beat in positions. But he keeps going to the legs. And something for me is like I've always been super self-conscious in a way where I was always afraid to make a mistake. I think it showed in my wrestling throughout my career, especially when I was really young. I kind of changed when I was in high school, but when I was really young, I'd win a lot of matches, but really close matches. I just figured out, I just don't make a mistake and I'll get the guy here and then I'll win, so when I was in college, there's the same thing in practice. I can beat the guy here and I'll get my 3 takedowns and we'll take a break and just not really expose myself too much, because in Iowa, it's just an uber competitive room and it helped me out a lot. But I was really scared to make mistakes. And sometimes you got to really check your ego too. When you're wrestling matches with guys like Roman, like you're saying, I should be beating this guy, but it's not about beating him. It's about getting better and progressing the art forward. And so, I'm not going to sit here and say that I've beat him every time, because I haven't. There've been matches where he beats me, and sometimes he beats me pretty good, but just keeping perspective and checking that ego, because there are certain things, like you said, you can go and you can win every match against XYZ guy, but if you're not testing new skills and trying out new skills and then getting beat, sometimes it's hard to push that art forward. So it's it's the ego, you have to check it every single day. And it's not easy, because especially on Fridays when we do match days, you want to win, it's about winning, but it's about winning in the long term. It's about winning the games. It's about winning the world championships or the trials, so I think it just comes down to ego, and you have to really, really keep that in check and keep that perspective.
Yeah. Jason, I see you over there writing notes, so go ahead.
You mentioned like match day Fridays and I think a lot of people want to know this, just that are wrestling fans. What is the difference in the training environments at Iowa versus Penn State? You've talked some about the philosophy at Penn State, but like as far as the way practices are structured at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club versus Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, as far as just what you're doing now and your training that may be different than what you were doing before, not necessarily that one's better than the other, but just how are those different?
I think the biggest difference is emphasis on time off, emphasis on recovery, and not just physical recovery, but mental and emotional recovery too, because you want to, when you come into the room, let's say it's a Monday or Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever it is, Saturday for lifts, you want to be because you're never going to be 100%, but you want to be as close to 100% as possible. So using your days off on Sundays and Wednesdays to really kind of regroup and revamp. In the past, this is me personally, but in the past, I had a really tough time taking days off. It'd be a Wednesday, a day off. I, go for a run, get some ropes in and maybe get a drill in the morning, but that's not an off day. That's a training day, by all means and purposes. And then you come in Thursday and you're supposed to be sharp and fresh, but you're not. You're at 79%, let's say. But you want to be coming in on that Thursday after a day off, pushing 90, 92%. Like I said, you're never going to be 100%, but that's the ideal. That's what you strive for, to be 100%. And so I think just for me personally, the emphasis on the recovery and making myself, having that discipline to recover. Because for me, it doesn't take discipline for me to get out of bed and go work out. That's like default. That's the easy thing to do, is just go grind and get a workout in. But the hard thing is to have the discipline to let your body bounce back and recover, and really using those days off for what they're worth. And then, when you come back after a day off, you're feeling fresh and you're getting more out of yourself. You can train 7 days a week, but how efficient and how good is that training? You're training at 72% 7 days a week. It's just not efficient in the long term. Especially now with the funding, through USA Wrestling, Living the Dream Fund and the RTCs, and then the sponsorships that because USA Wrestling is getting a lot of traction now. We can push the threshold farther. We can compete into our 30s. You're seeing guys like Dake and David and Burroughs. He's saying he's going to go to 2024, and I think that's definitely a possibility. The funding's there, but can we make our bodies last that long, and can we be competitive that long? So just using those rest days and recovery days, and just listening to your body more. And just kind of going back to kind of the foot injury, it's kind of I had this revelation, I was on the plane coming back from California. It's like, this body that I have, it's on loan to me from God, so I have to really take care of it and not beat it up so much, and if something's nagging me or I'm not feeling well, then take the day off. That's fine, but I have to really take care of my body and listen to my body, because it's kind of like a car. You own a car and you can just beat the crap out of it. And I beat the crap out of my cars, because I own them. But when you rent a car, you treat it with a little more care, and that's kind of how I view my body now. It's like, I don't own this thing, it's on loan to me, and eventually God's going to take it back and that's it. Right. So I have to take care of it while I have it. And if I don't take care of it, God's going to strike me down like he did my foot. Like, hey, listen to me. Like, you're pushing it. You're pushing it. So just take care of this thing that I've given you. And then he'll give you more. Right. So I feel like if I use these recovery days and listen to my body and listen to God and just kind of take care of this thing I have on loan, then he'll allow me to go farther and do greater things as time moves on.
Yeah, we have like 2 minutes left. And one of the things that I've always tried to do is learn. Doesn't matter who's older or younger, but just learn from these conversations. And the two things I jotted down, there's probably 20, but the importance of the 4 planes intersecting, the mental, spiritual, physical, emotional. And then the other thing that I thought was really important, and whether it's forgiving yourself or letting emotional baggage go, but the difference in the size of the windshield versus the rear view mirror that you mentioned. And I love that. And I think like most of the guys and women or girls, depending on the age, that watch and listen to these podcasts would love to have just done what you did, to have been on our team, to have medaled, to have accomplished, one of the greatest accomplishments you can do in wrestling. And when you're being that honest and saying, I let this go, I had to let some things go to improve. I had to sort of go backwards to go forward. I just appreciate your honesty, because that's the whole point of us doing these podcasts, is to just kind of let other people get a peek behind the curtain, so to speak. So I know you and Keck have been buddies for a long time, and you've been very supportive of the charity work that we do and helping us get sponsors and supporting our veterans. I just wanted to publicly thank you for that, Thomas, because you're helping us make a big difference. So I just, first time really speaking to you in person, especially for this long. I think I interviewed you one time at the World Cup with 9 other people, had a microphone in your face, but I just really appreciate the time you gave us today.
Yeah. I thank you for the time too, and the platform. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Jason, you want to sign off, say anything before we head out?
Just congratulations again, Thomas. I think you represented the country well, and people are excited to see you in the years to come.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And we didn't even ask you what you're going to do next, because we know you just want to be left alone about that. So
yeah.
So
well,
I just want people to know we did think of it. We just chose out of respect to not ask you about it. Don't hang up. I want to ask you something off the air, but everybody, thank you so much for watching, listening, tweeting, sharing. We'll come back to y'all next week. Have a great day.